What would you do if the people you trusted most suddenly became your greatest danger? Amara screamed. The sound tore through the house, sharp, loud, desperate. Inside the bathroom, water splashed wildly across the floor. Her hands shook as she tried to wash her face. The burning would not stop. It felt like fire under her skin. Her breathing broke into short, uneven gasps. "Help me!" she cried again. Outside the door, Mrs. Nkechi rushed forward and began knocking loudly. Amara opened the door, but the door did not open because it was locked from outside. The story returns to where everything truly began, the night Amara said yes. Daniel proposed on a quiet evening. No noise, no crowd, just soft lights and calm music. Amara stood frozen at first. She did not expect it. Her eyes filled slowly with tears as he knelt before her, holding a simple ring that sparkled gently under the warm glow of the candles. "Will you marry me?" he asked softly. She nodded before speaking. "Yes." That night, Amara returned home glowing with happiness. She could not stop smiling. But the moment she stepped inside, something shifted. Mrs. Nkechi hugged her tightly, too tightly. Sandra smiled too, but her eyes looked different. Later that night, long after Amara went to her room, whispers filled the living room. Sandra spoke first. Her voice sounded tense. "Why her?" Mrs. Nkechi replied slowly, her voice calm but cold. "She must not marry him." Sandra hesitated. "But how?" Silence followed. Heavy silence. Uncomfortable silence. Outside the hallway, Amara stood frozen in the darkness. Her heartbeat grew louder with every second. She was not sure what she had heard, but she knew one thing. Something inside that house had already changed. The next morning, everything felt strange. Mrs. Nkechi cooked Amara's favorite meal. Sandra offered to help with wedding planning. They laughed more, smiled more, talked gently. Too gently. Amara noticed, but she stayed quiet. One afternoon, Mama Ijoma called her softly from outside the compound. "My daughter," she said carefully, "be watchful." Amara frowned. "Why, Mama?" The old woman paused before speaking again. "I see how they look at you." That night, Amara awoke suddenly. Voices drifted from the living room, low, angry, careful. She stepped out quietly and moved closer. Sandra spoke first, frustrated. "If her face is gone, he won't marry her." Amara froze instantly. Mrs. Nkechi answered calmly, "Exactly." Amara stopped breathing. Her chest tightened painfully. Fear settled deep inside her stomach. She slowly stepped backward into the darkness. Her hands shook. Her mind raced. She wanted to run away immediately, but she didn't, and that decision would soon haunt her. Days passed slowly, but the tension inside the house grew heavier. Sandra watched Amara constantly, too closely. Mrs. Nkechi smiled often in public, but remained cold at home. Their kindness now felt like performance, like something rehearsed. Then, bridal preparation week arrived. One evening, Sandra returned home late. She carried a small nylon bag in her hand. When she noticed Amara watching from the hallway, she quickly hid it behind her back. Later that night, Sandra entered her mother's room quietly. "It must look like an accident," Mrs. Nkechi whispered. Sandra nodded slowly. "But what if she survives?" she asked. Mrs. Nkechi's face hardened. "She won't." Silence filled the room again. Outside the door, Amara stood trembling. She had followed quietly after hearing Sandra's footsteps. Now, fear rose sharply in her chest. She knew they were serious. very serious. She stepped away slowly, afraid the floor might betray her with sound. Her hands shook, her mind raced. And soon, the night of the attack finally arrived. The house felt unusually joyful that evening. Soft music played in the background, laughter filled the air. Sandra even joked with Amara while helping her choose jewelry for the wedding. Everything seemed normal again, almost too normal. Later that night, Sandra walked into Amara's room carrying a small decorated box. "For your skin," she said sweetly. Amara smiled gratefully, not knowing.
Hours later, Amara entered the bathroom alone. She opened the gift slowly. Inside was a small bottle, clear liquid, no smell. She poured a little into her hand, then applied it gently. Instantly, fire! Her scream shook the entire house. Inside the bathroom, panic took over. She rushed to the sink and splashed water again and again, but the burning only spread. Outside the door, Mrs. Nkechi rushed forward, then quietly locked it. Sandra stood behind her, listening silently. Amara cried desperately inside, begging, screaming, until suddenly the front door opened loudly. Daniel had arrived unexpectedly, and everything began to fall apart. Daniel ran toward the bathroom immediately after hearing her screams. Without thinking, he forced the door open with his shoulder. The lock broke instantly. Inside, Amara trembled uncontrollably. Water everywhere, tears everywhere, fear everywhere. He carried her out without saying a word. At the hospital, doctors walked quickly, nurses moved fast, machines beeped loudly around them. Daniel waited silently in the hallway, his face calm but tense. Mama Ejoma arrived soon after. "I saw her," she said quietly. Daniel looked at her. "Sandra," she continued, "running earlier." Hours later, the doctor returned. "She will be fine." Relief spread immediately, but then came another shock. It was not acid. Everyone froze. Just a chemical mixture. Sandra began shaking badly. Police officers arrived quietly. Suddenly, Mrs. Nkechi spoke loudly. It was her idea. Sandra stared at her mother in disbelief, and betrayal took its final shape. The truth came out quickly after that. Sandra cried loudly and confessed everything. Jealousy had blinded her. Anger had controlled her. Hatred had pushed her too far. Mrs. Nkechi remained silent, her face empty, her eyes cold. The police took them both away that same night. Days later, Amara stood quietly before her mirror at home. Her face was healing slowly. The burns were minor, but the emotional wounds were deep. Daniel stood behind her gently. "We can cancel everything," he said softly. Amara shook her head slowly. "No." Weeks later, the wedding still happened. Simple, peaceful, beautiful. But Amara had changed. She spoke less now, thought more, smiled differently. She forgave them quietly in her heart, but she never returned to that house again because she had learned something important. Not everyone who calls you family truly loves you. And that was how jealousy destroyed a family but could not destroy her. Amara survived, not just the attack, but the betrayal. Because sometimes the deepest wounds are not on the skin, they are in the heart. This story reminds us of something important. Not everyone who smiles with you truly loves you, and jealousy can destroy those who carry it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to support this small channel. Like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this, because the next story will shock you even more.